We got a Miami Dolphins mailbag on today's episode of Dolphins Today by Chat Sports. I am your host, Nic Rohloff. Couple days away from Week 3, Seahawks Dolphins in Seattle, but I want to answer some questions from all the fans in the comments section. But before we get into that, though, make sure you are following us over on Instagram. At Dolphins Today IG is the handle. We're inching closer to 500 followers. We currently have 390. We put out daily content on our Instagram page separately from our YouTube page. And if you want to be covered on everything surrounding the Dolphins outside of YouTube and in between our videos, Instagram's the best place to do it. Let's get to 500 as soon as possible. 110 away, counting on all the Dolphins fans to go follow us over on Instagram. We'll start with a question from JB. Shout out to you for the $5 super chat as well, my friend. Dolphins, how big will it be when these PUP and IR players will return in Week 5 with 2 out? Well, pretty big. And remember, there are a handful of players that are eligible to return in Week 5. It is not a guarantee that they will. I want to make that abundantly clear. The players that are in question here: Odell Beckham Jr., who started on the PUP list. Bradley Chubb started on the PUP list. River Craycraft started on IR. Cam Smith started on IR. So they are all eligible to return in Week 5 against the New England Patriots, but I'm not so sure everyone will. The reason why I say that is because you have a bye in Week 6, which means if you just give them that one more week off, they can really have 6 weeks of healing and extra time of being out while only missing 5 games. And players that I specifically think that could happen to, Odell I think could. I think Bradley Chubb is. Remember, Bradley Chubb tore his ACL and MCL in the final 2 weeks of the regular season last year. So that's a pretty deep and long recovery time for Bradley Chubb. So giving him an extra week or two to make sure that knee is fully healthy and ready to go is probably the smartest move possible for the Dolphins. And I don't even know if he's going to be ready to return in Week 5 if he wanted to, but I probably would hold him out 1 week anyway. When it comes to Cam Smith and River Craycraft, that one's interesting. I think Cam Smith is going to be able to return, who's on IR Week 5, which will be a good boost to the depth that Miami needs at corner, as they've been having Ethan Bonner being active, with Storm Duck, Saran Neal being the depth pieces on the perimeter. And I think River Craycraft could return. We'll see. He had a pretty serious injury at the back end of the preseason, but we'll ultimately have to see. I do think, though, you'll get Cam Smith back without a question. Odell Beckham Jr., 50-50 right now for me personally. I think he could just return Week 7, and then Bradley Chubb probably going to be a couple more weeks. Chad Jones with a $5 super chat. Shout out to Chad. Is sit Tua for the season? Sorry, but he is dangerously playing with his future as a parent. Listen, it's ultimately his decision. I've been very open about that. I do believe that if it was me, I would have probably retired. If I'm going to be honest, 3 concussions in the last 2 NFL seasons, 2 of them being pretty bad on Thursday Night Football, where you have kind of involuntary hand moments. They kind of call them the fencing position. I would have personally retired, but as Mike McDaniel pointed out, it's his decision. It's his life. He has to decide what he wants to do, and he is going to return this season at some point. He's placed on IR earlier this week, which means he is eligible to return Week 8 against the Arizona Cardinals. We'll see if that's ultimately the case, but either way, that is when he is first eligible to play again for the Dolphins this season. Week 3 game, just a couple days away. Who you got winning this one? Type MIA for the Dolphins. Type SEA for the Seattle Seahawks. Joel Bowman with a $5 super chat. Do you think Malik Washington will be able to play this week with Grant DuBose looking terrible and Robbie Chosen gone? Yes, obviously Robbie Chosen, the wide receiver on the practice squad, is no longer on this team. He was released on Tuesday afternoon, and they added Jackson Carman to the practice squad, offensive lineman, who we broke down earlier in the week. Malik Washington is interesting, though, because to me, if he was going to be out for this game, they should have placed him on IR. Because, yes, you are only given 8 players to be placed on IR during a season and return, and right now they've used 3 with Tua, Cam Smith, and River Craycraft. Or do they count? I know Tua counts, but I actually don't know. I have to look into that if River Craycraft and Cam Smith counts because they were placed before the season began, and I know they opened up those 2 roster spots. Either way, if he was going to be out for 4 weeks, they should have just placed him on IR with that quad injury. But they didn't. So I do actually expect Malik Washington to potentially play in Week 3 against the Seattle Seahawks, which they'll need because the wide receiver 3 for the Dolphins have been absolutely abysmal. You mentioned it. Braxton Berrios has been a no-show. Grant DuBose has been terrible. Robbie Chosen was horrific, and now he's off this roster. So they need someone to somewhat step up after Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, and maybe it's the athletic and versatile slot wide receiver from Virginia that Chris Greer drafted in the 6th round from Malik Washington. I think it's possible, and I do think there's a better chance that he plays this week than he doesn't. So hopefully Malik's able to have a good rookie debut. We also sponsored by PrizePicks, and if you want to go place some cheddar on this Dolphins Seahawks game this Sunday, you can with PrizePicks because it is a lot of fun. It is the #1 daily fantasy sports app in North America with more than 5 million active members. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. And with 2 weekends left in September, you can take advantage of their special with Caleb Williams. 1 passing yard gets you 1 win on PrizePicks every week in September. That's right, only 1 yard gets you an automatic win every football weekend in September. 2 weeks left of free W's, so take advantage. Don't miss out on this deal from PrizePicks because it's gone when September ends, and you could actually win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. We usually have an entry showing our weekly game in the football world between the Dolphins and whoever their opponent is, but I wanted to show you that you can do more than just that. You can go to the basketball world and do a season-long projection, or when it starts up in a month or so, you can do daily selections as well. Got more than on Bam Adebayo rebounds, more than on Jalen Brunson assists, and then less than on Zachary Sachet points. I think it's fun that you can really customize the way you play PrizePicks on a daily basis, and it's so easy to play. It's so quick, just a couple of buttons having to be selected, and you can potentially turn your knowledge of the sports world into some cold cash. So download the PrizePicks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code CLNS on PrizePicks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks, run your game. Appreciate them for sponsoring today's episode of Dolphins Today. That link will be in the description and comments of today's video. Let's move it over to Sat, who asks, where do you rank Tua upon all the Dolphins' past quarterbacks? Well, the Dolphins don't have the best history when it comes to quarterbacks. Obviously, #1 is going to be Mr. Dan the Man Marino. I would probably put Bob Greasy at #2 for the Finns, and then that's where it becomes a discussion where Tua could fall in here. Ryan Tannehill is probably up there for what he did in the early or the mid-2010s. Chad Pennington. Honestly, Chad Henne was kind of good for the Dolphins or in the late 2000s, early 2010s. And then Tua's right there. Like, I think Tua's a top 5 quarterback in Dolphins history. I know it's crazy, but think about this. He led the NFL in passing in 2023. I know he's had a lot of injuries, a lot of shortcomings in big moments, but to lead the NFL in passing, to lead the Dolphins and to back-to-back seasons of winning records with Mike McDaniel into the postseason, I'd probably put Tua in the top 5, and he's flirting right there with the Penningtons, the Tannehills, and the 3, 4, 5 range, if you're asking me. All right, make sure you are subscribed to the channel because we have daily Dolphins content, and we are live for every Dolphins football game, including this Week 3 matchup against the Seattle Seahawks, where we are matched up with them on the YouTube streets as well as the real gridiron. We are trailing by 12 subscribers in our Week 3 sub battle. Help us out. Hit that sub button and join the channel because we have daily Dolphins content. Gavin E. Owens. Hey, oh, goodness gracious. Gavin, I'm sorry to break it to you. I am not Jake Rietma. As good as my good old friend and pal here, Jake Rietma, was at the channel of Dolphins Today. And I know the similar is striking. We're both handsome guys with black hair and a good black beard going on. Shout out to Rietma. But I am Nic Rohloff. And Rietma's been gone for 4 or 5 months. But appreciate you tuning in with the question. When Tua returns, do you think Tua can win MVP this year? No. I made the bold prediction that Tua was going to win MVP this year because I said that if he leads the league in passing again, the Dolphins win the AFC East with a record of 12-5, 11-6, one of the best teams in the AFC, and he has a better interception to touchdown ratio as well as throwing 4,400 yards again this year. I think he was going to be in MVP consideration. Well, with him being out 4 weeks at minimum, he just won't be able to have the statistical output, and the Dolphins likely won't have a good enough record. So Tua potentially winning MVP, probably not going to happen. Ryan Noto, my guy with a question, rocking a beer. Is that a Tampa Bay Lightning hat as well? Well, we root for the Panthers around here. but Ryan, still love you. Why do you think fans just one side of the coin with Bryce Young and not the overall circumstances at Carolina? It's a no-win situation from day one. I agree. Made a video earlier on in the week of why I think the Dolphins could inquire and should at least have a little bit of interest in Bryce Young. And I also made a short that I put on our Instagram page. Remember, go follow at Dolphins Today IG. And people start flaming me for thinking that the Dolphins should trade for Bryce Young. I think it's just a cheap contract, or not contract, cheap overall investment. You'd only have to probably send a conditional 4th-round pick potentially, to where if he plays a certain amount of games, has a certain amount of stats, that pick gets a 2nd or 3rd round upgrade. But you'd only get him for 3 weeks, potentially 4. And I think he's quick. He's decisive with the football. And I just think he's lost confidence in Carolina between his teammates and the organization. And a fresh start is needed. He drafted 1st overall, not even 2 drafts ago, in 2023. Like, the talent's obviously there. And I think he'd be able to run Mike McDaniel's offense pretty well. So I think I would take the chance on it, especially with how bad his situation has been in Carolina. All right, here's a quick question for you as we get into our Week 3 game against the Seahawks. What player on the Dolphins, or honestly, what person, you can even mention a coach if you want, needs to step up the most without Tua Tagovailoa? 4 games down against the Seahawks, Week 3, Titans Week 4, Patriots Week 5, Colts Week 7 with that Week 6 bye. What player needs to step up the most to make sure the Dolphins still win football games? Batman. Love Batman. Favorite superhero? Let me know yours down in the comment section as well, if you count him as a superhero. But either way, Batman. Love him. Should Miami draft a quarterback next year? Say Cam Ward. It's certainly an intriguing hypothetical, right? I think you have to actually put in a better long-term solution or plan for Tua going forward. Next year will be the first year of his 4-year contract extension, but with how many type of injuries he's had, like, I think it's possible that one more concussion could actually be the end of his career. So you do have to have a plan, and I think the Dolphins will seriously look into drafting a quarterback this year. I don't think it will be in the 1st round, but say the 2nd round, say the 3rd round. I think they could make an investment at quarterback or sign a very high-valued backup guy, or maybe make a trade like the Steelers did for Justin Fields. Maybe it's Bryce Young for all that matters. Either way, getting a better backup quarterback, I think, is probably very much in the wings for Miami. Cam Ward's an intriguing name. I'd love to keep him in the 305 with how he's turned around that Hurricane team, but I think he'll be just ultimately drafted way too high. I think he'll ultimately be a 1st-round pick, maybe an early 2nd-round pick, and I think that will just exceed Miami's worth of putting value into that, considering you still do have Tua over 4 years. All right, that will do it for today's mailbag. Make sure you are following us on Instagram at Dolphins Today. IG is the handle. Like I said, content in between each of our videos over on our Instagram page. Go give us a follow. Let's get to 500 as soon as possible.